Teens are more anxious than ever, but are we asking the right questions? In part 2, Kate gets real about social media, the pressure to fit in, and why teens need more than just a "how are you" to truly feel seen.
Hi, I'm Britt.
And I'm Amy, and welcome to the Every Season podcast.
We're here for a fun time, not a long time.
Hopefully we're here for a bit of a long time. Hey Britt,
Hey, Ames.
would you say you need some assistance when it comes to being more aware of your body?
Why, what have you got?
Well, you can download our free 7-step female body awareness kit and see if it helps
Sweet, where?
in the show notes and on our website.
Also, in order for us to be here for a long time,
Please subscribe to our podcast.
Kate, like what would you say at the moment is the most common, I guess, challenges you're seeing across youth right now? Like emotionally and mentally?
I think some of them are the challenges that young people have had for a long time that are not new. So there's things that, peer relationships, I think, are a huge stressor for young people, particularly between those ages of 12 to 25. It's really stressful for a young person, to go through those changes within their friendship groups. And it's such a period of time where you're developing your identity, and sometimes that means losing friends along the way because you no longer have the same interests as somebody else. And I think particularly for young people who mainly have friends just at school, when that peer group shifts, they feel very isolated. And where do they go from there? If they don't have friends outside of that group as well. Look, I think social media plays a huge role as well, and that's only growing. Like, I think of when I was a teenager and the internet existed, but it really wasn't like, there wasn't photos of every person online and TikTok videos and all those sorts of things. I think there's a lot of pressure on young people now and a lot of comparison as well. And the internet is a space now where, obviously bullying and things like that happens online. I think there's just so much accessibility, and it makes it really hard, I think, also for parents to have control over that and be able to take a device off a young person. I think most parents would probably say that young people are a lot more advanced with technology than their parents are, and so for that reason, take a phone off them, but they'll find another way to be able to get online, and
That's so true.
those sorts of things.
It just reminds me, my parents banned me from Facebook, but I found a way.
You made another account.
I made another account and just changed the way I spelt my name, so I was AIMEE and then Griffin with an E at the end.
Actually, on that, has your mum followed you up about that after the podcast?
No, never.
That's so funny. You're going to get in trouble now, Amy.
Such a good point, Kate, because it makes me laugh as well. I mean, I don't know, but like it's so much harder. And you make another great point is like, a lot of these kids nowadays are so much more tech savvy than their parents. Like, we used to have Foxtel, and I came from a family. It sounds like my parents
It was so cool to have Foxtel too.
Exactly.
Foxtel, but like we weren't allowed to watch the M+ movies, so my dad put a pin on the Foxtel. I obviously used to always guess, and I used to guess the right pin. There's no, as much as, I guess that safety was there from a Foxtel perspective, I don't think there's any safety from a social media perspective or anything like that. So,
it's really hard. Yeah. And so while a parent might then see that a young person being online is having an impact on their mental health, I think that's also often a source of connection for young people. And so how do you balance that of supporting their mental health and wanting them to be able to see that life exists outside of what's online, but also allowing them to have connection as well? It's a real hard, like, I don't envy parents of teenagers in that way. Like, it's such a hard balance to strike. And I mean, I remember being a teenager too. Like, if I think if I was a teenager now and my mum took my mobile phone off me, it would be like she'd cut my arm off. Because, like, outside of school, that's the way that young people connect with their friends. And so if you don't have access to your phone, there's like the fear of there's so many things that people are talking about and I'm just going to get left behind. It's really, like, I can imagine it would be really, really stressful. I mean, I can't survive a day without my phone as it is. So, let alone, those
You need
feelings
to go camping, Kate. You need to go camping, no reception. That's where you survive.
100%.
Because you can't use it. But you're so right. Like the phone, when I was first a teenager, I had to use the landline phone, call, hey, you want to meet up here?
Yeah.
Then we'd go and meet up there. Yeah, we still got up to bad shit.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like advertised all over social media.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
We had more protection in that way, I think, too.
Get away with murder.
Yeah, exactly. Like now, if you did that and went out, you'd be posting it on Snapchat and TikTok and everything, drinking underage with your friends, and you'd be in trouble 2 seconds later. Whereas I think we did get away with murder. I mean, I think about my brother in particular, because he got away with absolute murder because it wasn't getting posted anywhere online.
Yeah. Funny.
Yeah.
I think, Kate, like, you do make such a good point as well. Another one, you just keep making so many incredible
good points.
I've said it about 10 times now, but that comparison, I think, when you made the point about, like, I guess the detriment to the mental health of youth of being in that comparison. I think as much as, the social media and stuff like that, as it does provide that positive from a connection perspective, I think we're in such a phase in society now where I would say probably, I'm no expert, but from your perspective, Kate, comparison is at the ultimate high, because social media, everyone highlights the most incredible things and how, I guess their life is in a highlight reel. You automatically look at that and go, well, I should have that, or I should be achieving that, or
you're being
envious,
envious.
how does that kind of, I know it's probably a really deep question, but how do you tackle that when you kind of see that? Do you just kind of see it, or are these individuals kind of expressing it, or is it something more that you can just see subconsciously?
I mean, that's true. It even happens at school, though. Like, it's not just online, it happens with peer groups at school and things like that too. And I think it's if they are things that are brought up, it's I guess I would just talk about, kind of ask why they feel that way. Why do they feel like they have to be the same as their friends? And I think often the answer is because that's how they feel like they're fitting in as well. And that's so important to, a young person, particularly in high school, is being able to fit in with their peers. Nobody, or very few people want to be different. They just want to, it's such an awkward time in your life. You just want to be able to blend in with everybody else. And if you don't have the same shoes as everybody else and the same, hoodies as everybody else, then, like, you stand out, you look different. And I think for a lot of young people, they don't want to stand out and look different. They just want to look like everybody else and fit. Just feel like they fit somewhere.
Yeah, you're so right.
Yeah.
It is. I think
Because it's cool, isn't it? It's cool to be what everybody else is wearing. Like, I remember mine was a Dada jumper, but I don't know if you two would remember that.
Yeah, I do. Of course I do. I mean, I came from the era of snap pants, and they've come back again now.
Snap pants. I'll Google this.
Oh yeah, Amy doesn't know, but the Dada jumpers were horrible. The juice jumpers.
The snap pants.
Yes, they were very popular.
They're back
in high school
though.
too.
They're back. But you were so right. Like, you just want to fit in, or you've got that much confidence you don't care, and you can be the other end where you're the leader, making all the rules about what it is to be, making the rules of what you need to do to fit in.
Yeah. I think there's so few kids though that are the leader, and there's so many more that just want to fit in. Like, I mean, again, I remember being in high school and feeling so awkward, and so much changes in your body and your brain through those years, and so rapidly that you just feel so uncomfortable in yourself as well, and you just like I never wanted to stand out. I just was like, let me just blend into the wall if I can, and I think a lot of kids feel like that too.
Yeah, it is. I think it's. I mean, that's. I guess yeah. A part of it. It's like how do we that's part of life in a way, do you know what I mean? And it's just more so about ensuring that they're surrounded with a support network, family and friends where they can experiment who they actually are as individuals, but because
It's
they
so
you do there's
important.
and I think it's um I guess work that you're doing, Kate, is just incredible because, from I'm assuming that as well that you deal with a fair amount of adolescents that maybe don't have that support network, or the demographic is or the socioeconomic status is a lot lower than others, so the access to a support network that's there to help them really kind of become who they are is really hard,
Yeah,
so
definitely.
it's
I see a lot of that for sure. And I think every parent is, the way I see it is, every parent is just doing the absolute best that they can. And with the skills that they have as well. And we
yeah
do a lot of work with parents too. And I don't think I've never come across a parent that really just doesn't care. They're so desperately wanting their child to, feel better and get back into their life. They just don't all have the same like level of skills, and every that also isn't necessarily determined by money either. Like, I've worked with families that have a lot of money and really struggle to connect with their children, and I've worked with families, the other end of the spectrum with the same issue. It isn't necessarily dictated by money in that way. I mean, yes, socioeconomic status definitely impacts on access to things. I mean, the service I work for doesn't cost anything because it's public mental health service. Um, so access in that way is not limited. But then thinking about how people connect in other ways outside of school, that changes based on your socioeconomic status. One kid might be in 10 different activities because their family can afford to send them to all of those things. Or, they might have a substance use issue and their family can afford to send them to a rehab unit. Whereas other young people aren't going to have access to that. So their main social connection is going to school. Or they might be really disconnected from school because their family needs them to work in order to be able to keep the family, paying the rent, paying for their food, those sorts of things. Everybody's circumstance is so different. And I've seen both ends of the spectrum and the impact that has on young people for sure.
Based on that, like, what would you say is one of the I suppose not hardest, but like one of the experiences you've had that's actually stuck with you?
Mm. It's hard. I don't know that I could narrow it down to just one. I have worked I worked a lot within an area of Melbourne that is very low socioeconomic background, and I think I am very fortunate and in a privileged position that I grew up in kind of a middle class family. So a lot of what I saw when I was working within that area was so vastly different to how I grew up. Um, and it was quite sad as well in some circumstances too. But I think seeing the impacts that people's living situations can have on their mental health is really hard, because you can't just remove someone from that situation and change their life. their life circumstances. And so you've got to work with young people within that, and within the circumstances that they've got, which I think, again, sounds probably like a really privileged position to come from, that, I'm going in, and it's not about, like, I don't want it to sound like I'm going in and rescuing people. That's not at all what it's about. It's, just everyone's circumstances are different. And I think sometimes that can feel like a really sad thing to tackle, but there's still a lot of hope within that, and being able to work with young people where they're at, and see positive changes in their lives, even if it doesn't look exactly the way that it does for other young people.
I'm going to throw a curvy one at you. Okay. Well, one you might not want. If you don't want it to go like ahead, I will take it out. But I want to know. So, like, if you go into a setting where, like, there's a young kid that does need help, right? Mm-hmm. But you feel like the parents aren't kind of supporting that in a certain way, do you need to then go and say, hey, this is a situation, we need help here, like, or do you just stop at the adolescent age? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. It kind of depends on the age of the young person. So, so if they're under the age of 18, and there's something going on in the house that is potentially dangerous for the young person or for other kids in the house, it's mandatory for us to report that to a service like Child Protection, or Child First is the other one. But when in the instances that has had to occur, that doesn't mean that it changes the way that necessarily that we work with that young person or the parents. Like that then is another service that comes alongside us to support the family. And we continue to support the family around the young person's mental health and the young person themselves. So I've worked with lots of young people where there's been child protection involved and other services. It doesn't actually really change anything about the way that we then still work with the young person and the family. But we look at lots of ways to be able to, we have family therapists that also work with us, and so they in a lot of cases will work with the young person and their parents or siblings or whoever their support people are, and we will do work together. And then sometimes they might work with the parents and we continue to work with the young person. It's very much a whole family picture. It's not just about siloing the young person and working with them solely. We're looking at the whole picture and what's going on in the house.
Yeah, wow. If, I guess along that kind of line, if every parent could understand one thing about their teenager's mental health, coming from all the experience that you've had, Kate, what would it be?
I think that I think sometimes it's hard as an adult to think about how you felt as a kid, and for that, and I mean, obviously things have changed significantly. I think that that often problems come about because parents don't feel able to ask the right questions or to ask questions. So I think that life gets busy, and I'm sure everybody. I mean, I do this myself, where you go and you say, "Oh, hi, how are you?" and someone gives you an answer, but like you're not really digging deeper than that when you're doing those superficial things. And I think that in a busy house that can happen quite often, where it's like the kid comes home from school and the parent says, "Oh, how was your day?" The kid says good and goes into their bedroom. But I think creating a space where you can kind of go a little bit deeper and really try and connect is really important. And look, I mean, a 15-year-old boy, you're probably likely to get the, oh, go away, like, I don't want to talk to you kind of thing. But giving them those opportunities for connection, I think are really, really important. And that's what's going to also help to build, if something has gone wrong, if they're not feeling good, if something's changed in their mental health, knowing that, well, mum comes in and checks on me every day, or dad and I go for a drive every Sunday, and that's my opportunity to be able to do that. I think just being able to give those opportunistic moments for connection and be really consistent around that, ask the genuine question of like, but how are you really? And like, I mean, that doesn't just apply to parents. I think that applies to everybody. I think often we ask the question, but we don't really listen to the answer, or we don't then ask the next question of, but how are you really? Or, tell me like what your week's been like, those sorts of things, and really try and listen for the deeper answer.
I think
Wow.
do you know what, Kate? And it's so interesting you say that, because I think I think one, life gets busy and we're just on this like go scenario and everything's going on and all that type of stuff. But I also think people don't actually know how to ask the questions. I think that is the issue. No matter what, again, I'm coming from a very privileged upbringing, very, very much so. But no matter what upbringing you come from or whatever, I think the issue is that we don't know. I think there's a lot of people don't know how to ask the questions. And when you're a parent or like as a kid, I remember looking up at my parents being thinking, like, you think they just know everything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's hard too, because, I think from a parent perspective, you are taking on that role of caring and supporting, and you are the parent and you are the provider. But you also have to realize too that like they're also human beings too that are going through stuff as well. And I think that it's a hard thing to kind of navigate.
And
Absolutely.
You're so right. And like but then it goes reverse. So like the parents have got to understand like we don't understand what they are already thinking and know. So like I remember one of the first things I learned when I become a mum is make sure you get down to their level when you're having a conversation instead of standing above them, because then they're actually, you're face to face and you're having that conversation. And they're actually, it's body language, it's everything involved in asking that question. Like you said, Ames, people don't know how to ask the questions because there's so many things involved in that. Like, so you say, how are you? It's your tone, it's your body language. It's, are you sitting down or are you standing up, rushing around like Kate said? It's so right. Like
and I think there's also a lot of fear around asking the wrong question too. When I started working in mental health, like it wasn't that I had been taught at uni like all the right questions to ask. I asked I wouldn't say the wrong questions, but the way that people respond to anything you ask is going to be entirely different across 10 different people. And so sometimes you just have to ask the question. And if you get a negative response, well, okay, next time I have to ask that different to that person. But you may ask it in exactly the same way to somebody else and get an entirely different response. So I guess I would say there isn't such a thing really as a wrong question. Like, I think you just have to ask it. Nobody wants to make things worse. And so I think they then avoid asking the tough questions because they think that it's going to make things worse. But nothing can get better if you don't know what's going on as well.
It does create a space, and it creates a space. So like if you have that, if you're comfortable enough with your parents, you're able to go to them and have that conversation like you said, Kate. And I was able to do that. Like I remember if anything come about, or even if my mum didn't want to hear it, I still told her because I had that confidence that she was going to listen, or if I needed her, she would be there in return, if that makes sense. So based on what you said before, it makes so much sense because I just I was never nervous to actually go and have a conversation about how I was feeling, because obviously they did a good job at making a safe space for that.
and I know that not every young person has that, and I mean, I think too, not for every young person is that going to be a parent either, and that's where I think, having the community around you of, aunties and uncles and cousins and, community members and extracurriculars where that's possible and things like that are really important as well, because as as much as I'm sure every parent wants to be their child's safe space, as a kid grows and goes through different stages of life, they're going to go through different points where that they feel comfortable with their parent as their safe space, and then other times that they don't want to talk to their parent about certain things. And I think that's why it's so important, not just for like parental connection, but for that extended family as well, to be able to, and family, friends, and whatever your community looks like, it's important to have those connections as well, because you never know at what point in someone's life they're going to reach out and want to have you as their safe space, or come to you about a particular thing because it's something that you understand and know, and those sorts of things.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because, and I think this is just another topic we could talk about another time with you, Kate. But it's then like from the other perspective of understanding the role that you play in someone's life too. And I think we've lost that in some ways as well, because we are so go go go. And as much as social media is great in so many ways, and I'm not being negative about the platforms and stuff, but it's also created, we're all about me, 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 me. Oh yeah, like, or comparisons of like, oh, this person has this and this and this and this. Where it's like, when you step back and go, okay, cool, what role do I play? Like I've always said, as a leader, you play that role, and that might be that individual might not have that safe space at home or that support. So that's my role, to ensure that they understand that they can come to me with certain things and whatever. And I think, like you said, there are going to be times, like I remember one individual said to me, how do you have the confidence to ask all these questions and get real deep? And I think it's like you said, it's the experience and having the confidence in myself to be like, I know my intention. And I think that if it is going to be the wrong question, and they're not going to answer, or they don't feel comfortable, well then I've got to kind of steer it in a different way. And I think it's so
I think you're also
important.
interested though, as Ames. Like a lot of people ask the question without actually being interested and wanting to know, where you ask the questions and you keep going because you actually want to know about them.
Well, and
or
that's
you want to help as a leader.
100%. And I think that's where it is a knee-jerk reaction, Kate. You're so right that I guess in society it's just like, oh, how are you? It's just, it that actually has no meaning. Everyone says it, but it has absolutely
how are you?
no
Yeah,
meaning.
good. How are you? Okay,
yeah,
cool. Let's keep going.
Yeah, exactly. And you leave not knowing anything about that person.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
And it's so easy, even on your worst days, to say, yeah, I'm fine. Because, when someone asks that question, because if you look, like, you're not just going to necessarily launch into, actually, I feel terrible today.
Yeah.
I feel like
I'm an absolute fucking wreck.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm exhausted.
Do you really want to know?
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's only certain people in life that you would say that to, where, generally it's just a question that people say in passing, and there isn't a whole lot of real want for connection behind that, I don't think.
You know what?
How do we change
we
it?
can talk about this on Friday. Yeah, my head's like, I'm trying to think of like questions and stuff that can change.
Well,
But,
Amy and I do it, to be honest. Like, I'll go to Amy, how are you? She's like, yeah, good, fine. And I'll be like, you're not fine. She goes, first world problems. I'm like, no, they're not first world problems. Tell me how you feeling. That's how the conversation goes, isn't it? But that's because we work closely together.
100%.
Exactly.
But I've got
on people close to you is like, you can see the change in their tone, or the change in their presentation, or they usually put makeup on and they haven't put makeup on today, or whatever it might be, and you're like, there's something there today, what's going on? And that's what pushes you to ask the deeper questions sometimes. And I think that's where parents know their kids, and when something is different in your child, I think, generally, and so asking that question, the deeper question, when you're noticing those differences. And I think also, a lot of kids aren't going to know how to put that in words either.
No.
But continuing to ask the question, and that's where, I mean, I'm a big advocate for anybody going to see a psychologist and having experiences with psychology, from whatever age, because I think that having a positive experience of seeking support at a young age is also then means that you're more likely to seek support if you need it later in your life as well. I'm a huge advocate for that. And I think that's where the stigma around mental health and getting help is still there. Like, it's a lot better than it used to be. If I think back to like probably my parents' generation, like you just had to push it down and keep going. But there's a lot more, it's much more okay now to seek support for a lot of young people, not for all young people, but there is still a lot of stigma behind that as well, I think.
Oh, 100%. Wow, Kate, this has been such an awesome chat. Thank you so much for your time. It just, yeah.
I know. I'm so grateful for you coming on. Like, it's been incredible.
Yeah, thank you.
Howdy, it's us again. Hope you enjoyed the episode.
Don't forget to download the awareness kit and subscribe to the podcast. Have a fabulous day.